Hello guys, and welcome back to another Valheim guide, and today we're going to be looking at creating a farm that allows an infinite passive supply of wood and stone amongst some other things. And this will be done by farming a Greydwarf spawn and automating it. This is easier said than done, so I shall talk through the process and show my failures and eventual success, but also do note that because of the difficulty of this, all of it is recorded in single player rather than my normal third person time lapses. And while we're here, if you do enjoy these guides, then be sure to drop a thumbs up, and obviously if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe, as I've got plenty more coming. Now, once you've found a spawn, your first job is to surround it in campfires. This is super important as it will stop NPCs trying to kill you and allow you to work on your farm, as Greydwarfs are scared of fire. At this point, I dug a pit around the spawn point, and the intention was to allow items to fall through to the pit if the enemy died. This wasn't particularly successful, but the number one thing that I did learn here was the importance of using fire, and every now and then the spawn area would fill and the odd Greydwarf would burn. My next thought was to minimize the amount of fires being used by placing a wall to stop NPCs from leaving the area. Fires greatly reduce the frames in Valheim at the moment because it's not too optimized, so the more flames that we could reduce, the better. At this point, I divided the fires into 4 sections, but again, this wasn't particularly successful. The next thing that I wanted to try was to add spikes to try and damage the Greydwarfs and push them back into the fire. The objective was accomplished, however I found it made the Greydwarfs more aggressive, which risked the fires being put out and them eventually breaking free, and with us having to repair the spikes, the farm became less passive, which is something that we really want with this build. At this point, I felt it super important to fence the spawn in to stop any escapees, but this also meant that grabbing the resources was pretty difficult, which led me to tear down the fence and attempt to build a platform around just the fires. And by removing the spikes, it meant that I didn't need to repair the buildings as much, and the tighter build also meant that we needed fewer fires. But still, a lot of damage was being done, and this was successful up until a brute actually smashed the spawn by accident. So at this point it became realised that the overall concept worked, but I needed to find a way to remove the Greydwarfs from arm's reach of the spawn. Upon finding another spawn, I started, as before, placing fires around the spawn and then digging down around the spawn. This time I dug deeper, but do note that if you dig too close to the spawn point, it will also be destroyed, so do continue with caution. Once I got down to the right depth, I built the platform in a ring around the spawn to stop any Greydwarfs from escaping that fell down. And this will eventually be a ring of fire. And once the ring was done, I slowly edged into the rock further and further towards the spawn. I tried my best at this point to also leave those withered branches outside, as I wanted them to add the aesthetic to the build. Once I was as close as I dared go into the spawn, I added the fires at the bottom and fueled them and removed the fires from above, and at this point I was relatively pleased with the result, but I knew this could be improved. I then dug beneath so that I could add doorways. Now the reason for this is that it would give me easy access to the fires, whilst also limiting potential damage that I could take. And this allows me to easily refuel these fires, which is super important later on. The doors also, as a kind of secondary bonus, push any surviving enemies next to it back into the fire. At this point, it was a success. Afterwards, I then added planks and covered the whole top. And at this point, I realized that I had built Hellraiser. It worked perfectly, but I still had some additions I wanted to add to improve it. I dug a hole through a large rock to create the feel of going through an underground passage to the farm, and the thistles which fell through actually gave this lovely blue glow, which I love. And once the tunnel was built, I added a roof, which is super important as stormy weather would put out the fire and allow the Greydwarfs to attack the build and potentially escape, which we do not want. Once finished, I was left with a farm which easily killed any dwarves that fell into the bottom, even if they didn't at first, and I can easily collect the items by running around the underside. To me, it looks fantastic. In fact, it looks fantastical. It really fits into the setting. And so far, it hasn't been destroyed by any other enemies. But that's all we have time for, guys. If you did enjoy this build and found it helpful, then please do drop a thumbs up. And obviously, if you do want to see more, be sure to subscribe for more content like one of the videos I've placed in the top right-hand corner. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and also a special thanks to all of our amazing patrons, most notably our Totalxclipse patrons, The Calamity, Cerebral Tag, JP Zone TV, and Trebor, as well as our Lunar Eclipse patrons, Matt Lippard, Chris McCabe, and Lord of July, as well as our Blood Moon of the Day, Wreck-It Ralph. Anyway guys, as always, ciao for now.